So, good morning students. Today here I am with my next part of the chapter which we are dealing with, and you know that we are dealing with French Revolution, right? So, till now we have done the political part of the French Revolution. We have seen that how the French Revolution is taking place, what were the conditions behind it, or what were the problems due to which the revolution took place, and then we have studied the outcome, the result of it, how people reacted to it, how the king Louis XVI reacted to it, and how the government they decided on it, right? Okay. Now today we will see how this French Revolution have helped the society or transferred the society and changed the society into a new one. So today we will see the social transformation of the French Revolution, okay? And for that we have first of all the position of women or the condition of women in France. At the beginning of the revolution, in the beginning of 1789, the women, they were not at all taking part in the revolution, or they were not taken as proper citizens in the revolution in France at all. But as soon as the revolution goes on, as soon as it went on, it became very important that women are a very important part of the society. They started to understand their position, they started to understand their capacity, and they started to participate in the revolution, right? You know that when we have studied the political part of the revolution, we have seen, we have said, we have discussed that women, by taking any of the kitchen utensils, they have come on the streets and they started the revolution. And from that onwards, the women became a very, very important part of the revolution. They understood that they too have their position in the society. So when the clubs like Jacobins, the clubs like Girondins, they were flourishing, women clubs were also popularized. Many women clubs were there. And in my last class, I have discussed about the Girondins. Some of the students, they have asked me a question that what are the Girondins? Girondins, they are a political club, and the members of the political club are the rich people of the society. And the Jacobins, they were the club of the poor section of the society. And like that, many women clubs were opened. And in those clubs, the women, they discussed about their rights. They discussed about their rules and regulations and positions. And one of the very, very revolutionary women of France was Olympe de Gouges. She was a leader of that type. And when the Constitution of France was drafting on the process, and it came out in the year 1791, people, they expected that this Constitution of 1791 will provide some rules and rights to the women. And the women also, they also demanded something. What they demanded? They demanded the right to education. They demanded right to work freely. They demanded the rights to have training. And they demanded the rights to get married on their own wish. So these were the rights they demanded. because these are the rights you need to be a proper human being in a society. If you wanted to get treated as a proper human being, you should have your education, you should have your proper training, you should have your proper work or a way through forward earning money, and you should have a choice of your own life. And in France, these were not allowed to women. And most importantly, they demanded to be able to cast votes. They demanded that they should cast vote and they should have the right to choose their own government. But in 1791, when the constitution was out, and in that constitution, the constitution definitely gave some of the demands of the women, but it more or lessly disappointed them, because it gave the right to education, it gave the right to work, it gave the right to choose their life, but not any voting rights, no suffrage right, no rights to be a proper citizen. And after the constitution of 1791 also, remember 1791 constitution is the post-revolution constitution of France, then also the women were considered as the second class citizens. And many women, they protested against it. They protested against it, they marched against it, they had processions. And when the reign of terror started in the year 1793, the reign of terror, when the reign of terror started in the year 1793 under Robespierre, Maximilien Robespierre, many women, they went against Maximilien Robespierre. They continued to have their women clubs, they continued to have women magazines published and women newspapers where they discussed about their rights, they demanded about their rights and everything. But you know that Maximilien Robespierre was not ready to accept all these things. So Maximilien Robespierre, he started to arrest those ladies, those women who were the leaders of the women section of the society. And after arrest, you know what happened, that they were killed. They were found guilty and they were killed through the guillotine. And in this manner, many young promising women leaders, including Olympe de Gouges, were killed under the guillotine. And it was not before in 1946, just imagine, 1 year before we Indians got our independence. We talk about Europe a lot of things, right? We always say that Europe is an example. Just imagine that France, the epitome of civilization, they are giving the rights to women for vote in 1946. Not before that. Not before that, women got the right to vote in France. And in 1946, women in France got the right to vote. So, till now we have seen only the good part of the French Revolution. So, this is the first time when we are also discussing the back side or the dark side of the revolution too. Right? So, as an historian, you always have to remember that it's not only about revealing one point of sight. If you take a coin, there are two sides. You have to check both the side. Okay? So, you can continue with this. Next, we will discuss today about the problem of slavery. You know what is slavery? Slavery is something which is a terrible thing in the society. Many of you know what is slavery. Slavery means keeping a man or a woman in your home for different type of help and paying them, sometimes not paying them, and treating them and like property. Like when I hit this table, when I hit this board, do they cry? Do they feel pain? No. It was thought that the slaves, after all being a human being, they don't feel pain. So you can do anything. You can beat them, you can give them no food, you can give, you're not supposed to give them food, you're not supposed to give them clothing, you're not supposed to give them shelter. It's like your property, like you buy vegetables from the market, like that you buy slaves from the market. It was a very, very heinous crime which was going on in Europe, not only Europe, in the whole world. And in France also, in France and the whole Europe, they had this kind of slavery system, and they had a very interesting triangle about this slavery system. What is that? It is known as the slave triangle. Slave triangle means, like at the top it is Europe. They used to come to either Africa or Asia to buy slaves, because in Asia and Africa, you know, human beings are there and they are free of cost, because our population is huge. So they used to come to Africa or Asia, they used to buy slaves or they used to collect slaves, and then they used to send them to America, because America was their new colony, and in America there were gold mines, diamond mines, cornfields, and much more agricultural land. So these slaves were used in America, and whatever the products were produced from America, they used to reach Europe. So you can understand that there was a slave triangle going on. And when this French Revolution started, there was a cry to abolish the slave trade or slavery system. Why? Because you know that we are talking about French Revolution, where people are talking about what? People are talking about equality, people are talking about liberty, people are talking about fraternity. Just imagine, one hand you are talking about all these things, all these philosophical ideas, and on the other hand you are talking about a slavery system where you are keeping a man, where you are keeping a woman captive in your home and you are treating them badly. These are not equal. You cannot have this in the same way. So there was a cry to abolish the slavery system, but the slavery system was not abolished. The National Assembly, they could not abolish the slavery system because they were afraid. Of whom? Because most of the families who used the slaves were rich people, and the rich people used to give money to the National Assembly, and as they used to give money to the National Assembly could not abolish the slavery system. But when Robespierre came to the throne, when Robespierre started his ruling, he in 1793 abolished it, because he believed so much in social equality. You know that. That's why his reign is known as the Reign of Terror, and that is the reason why his party members went against him. So Robespierre abolished it. But again, when the Directory of Rules, they came in the year 1794, the slavery system was reintroduced. And Napoleon Bonaparte, who ruled in France after 1804, also continued the process. And finally, in 1848, when finally, after a long time, France became a republic, the slavery system was finally abolished. And the bad heinous kind of a system was abolished from France. So today I'll stop here, and in my next class I'll come to the rest part of the chapter and finish my first chapter, and will continue with the question answers. Thank you.